Thank you all for coming. It's been really delightful to spend the last few days with you in Cincinnati. We've enjoyed it immensely. And we are wrapping up with a panel of some of our esteemed speakers. It's been great to have them here. We're looking forward to having a relaxed conversation with them now. And we have a few questions here, but if you have any questions you'd like to ask them, I think there are pads near you. Please feel free to write down a question and pass it down. We'll have someone collect them at the end so we can get answers to any questions that you may have remaining. And to start, I'd like to have them each introduce themselves briefly.
Adam Sandman, director here at Inflectra.
That's good to start.
Okay. Jeff Payne, co-Paris.
Remco Putker, Robust IT.
Peter Brackstone, Managing Director of Influence IT.
And last but not least, Andreas Eckerle from Generali Switzerland.
Andreas, you can go ahead and hold the mic. We're going to start with you. Testing has changed a lot over the years. How has it changed for you in the last 5?
Testing changed a very lot. It changed very much in the last 5 years. More technologies to come up, more things to cover. The systems are getting more complex. The tester needs more technical skills to fulfill within. It's not only manual testing. There are challenges like I have to cover the test automation. I have to build in some performance tests. So it has changed. It has also changed while hopping between some different technologies, starting somewhere in the web and onboarding process in a GUI, then transferring via streaming platforms like Dockers and containers, and then ending up in a core system like we have built in Power Builder, so you need SQL scripts. So there's a wide range of technologies used by the tester, and it's not only I have to click and click and click there. I have to know about the technologies. I should be able to handle all the steps in between. So, and I think we're not at the end in these changes within the last 5 years. So it will come more and more and more.
Great. Anybody want to add their experience from the last 5 years?
From my perspective in Australia, it's quite a different environment from the rest of the world, I think. It's mostly been it's mostly been a cultural change from testers being a resource that just comes on at the end of a project to a tester actually being involved much earlier in the process. And it's certainly something I encourage when I'm out on a consulting engagement. I'm currently working with a bank that's being set up, and I've very clearly told them at this point in time, and that they're at the beginning of their cycle, that they need to get the testing and quality analysts on board. And it's taken some time to actually persuade them that it's actually a really good thing to do. And if any of you were at Dennis's previous presentations today, you'll understand that the earlier we actually inject quality into the process, the cheaper it is for the organization in the long run. So trying to balance off the cost of having extra resources up earlier in the project to the benefit of having a less shoddy project or a product when it actually goes out to market has been quite challenging. Prior to that, testing is testing. It's great. I love breaking stuff.
So you're creative, destructive.
Yeah.
Okay. I see 2 big changes. The first change is the cloud implementations. I started software. I'm very into ERP software. I started coding, then I started configuring, and currently I'm implementing software as a service cloud solutions. They demand a different approach. Testers are not writing detailed test scripts for small parts of the system, but they're more end-to-end test script written down. Second change is Agile. When you look at Agile books, and for particularly Scrum books, we do no longer exist. I'm a test manager, and I do not exist in the Scrum book, which is very bad for the hourly rate. That's why I'm a project manager today. But there's a lot of change in methodology, and there's a lot of change in platform. Cloud platforms demand a different approach from testing as opposed to on-premise platforms.
Yeah, I agree with everything said so far. So this is a boring panel. But I disagree. No. Well, the one thing that wasn't covered was developers. I think that we have, we have been trying to get developers to test their code for a long time, right? I mean, 20 years ago, we were beating on the developers to do so. Now, I would say that it is definitely not the norm yet. However, with things like test-driven development and better unit testing frameworks and methods, we are seeing more developers help as part of the testing process. That is a good trend. We're not all the way there, certainly, I know from talking to many of you and other places, but we are seeing movement in that side for the first time, I feel like, ever, personally. So I'm pretty happy about that. And that is something that's pretty new, in my opinion.
Cool. One thing I've seen change, I think, is also the appreciation of tester versus testing, meaning that you need to use your emotional intelligence to understand the application, understand the behaviors of the person using it, and not just follow a giant Excel sheet of 400 prescribed steps. And things like exploratory and session testing, but even applying that even to more traditional manual testing by having it be far less prescriptive and allowing a person to use what's between their head to actually understand and inform is turning us into understanding the value of testers, doing testing rather than test scripts and tests in the noun. And that's been a big change, I think.
Great. Remco,
Thank you.
Agile means a lot of things to a lot of people. What are some common pitfalls?
The main pitfall I see is the level of maturity needed to make Agile successful. When I look at the projects I did Agile, I met Scrum Masters, 20 years old, 21, 22 years old, product owners, same age, Scrum team members, same age. And I think that to make Agile successful, you need to have a lot of history with you. You need to have a lot of implicit knowledge to look at the different areas in your project instead of just thinking it's easy, anybody can do the job and it's quick. I think that's the main pitfall of Agile. And another pitfall of Agile was very obvious in the presentation. I think you did this presentation.
Oh, you're going to steal mine, aren't you?
I'm going to steal. I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you.
No, go ahead.
Here you are. Go ahead. It's yours.
Middle management.
Yes. There
Biggest problem in
Middle
Agile is nobody knows what middle management's role is in Agile, and organizations are horrible at figuring it out. And you have to figure it out. Otherwise, they will retrench, they will fight, they will scratch, they will claw to keep their teams. So you have to figure that out. You want to finish?
No.
Sorry, no soup for you.
Okay. Oh, I don't mind. Agile. One of the biggest pitfalls of Agile is what they call the capital A Agile, meaning that people are going to go to a bookstore, buy that book on Agile with a capital A, and read out the methodology, go home, implement it step by step. As opposed to look at the Agile Manifesto with a small a and realizing we can find a methodology that works for our team and our product using Agile principles. They don't get out the giant safe diagram and follow, I need 4,000 artifacts, 4 feet high and 6 feet deep. Yeah. So don't see it as a prescription, but see it as an approach, basically.
Andreas, do you want to?
Same direction as Adam said already. If you know how to write Agile, the company still is not Agile. So just coming in, turning on the lights after weekend and saying now we are Agile and we stand together as a board, that's not Agile. Yeah, so then there needs a cultural change. The company has to change, and everybody from the top management to down must be willing to adapt these changes.
I'm going to pick up on this one. One of the things I've found is that everybody's concentrating on the method and the methodology. So you go into an organization, they're saying, we're Agile, we want to be Agile, we want to be this, we want to be that. First thing I say to them is, I don't care what methodology you are, let's work out what you're trying to deliver and work out a way of delivering it. And if it happens to be Agile, with a small a, then that's fine. But let's just adopt a way of doing it that works for us as an organization. Let's not get hung up on the actual methodology and the academic approach to everything.
Adam, why don't you go ahead and
All
hold
right.
on to that?
I'm going to hold on to this.
The Standish Report, which perhaps you could also define as we pursue this question, says 2/3 of all software projects fail. What have you seen that could improve outcomes?
So the Standish Report is a report that goes out that talks about the state of software development and what is the success rate of projects. And they do it year after year, and every year they seem to be getting worse, which is a bit scary. And one of the things they identified, if I remember correctly, was requirements and understanding requirements is very hard to get done right. Agile makes it better in some ways, but if it's not done well, it's obviously hard. One of the techniques I've seen, more in my previous life as a consultant, was actually the value of workshops and getting people together rather than relying on documents and paper and written stuff. Although it's good to write things down at the end of the workshop and have people maybe sign it, but having people work together cross-functional in a room, hammer it out, and find out what's really needed. Because the problem is people think we need a new claim system. It should work this way. You ask the claim agents, how should it actually work for you? It may be completely different to how people at the top think of it. So bringing in users, stakeholders, all together, workshopping, lots of whiteboards, lots of informal chats, sidebars, and really getting to the real understanding of what's needed is very helpful.
No. I think one of the main reasons for project failing is that they are going too big. People start them too big. I made there's a project in the Netherlands. It's SAP implementation, material logistics at the Defense Department, and they were budgeting $8 million for the project. It turned out $120 million, and they weren't ready. And it's a little bit over budget, and it's because they made it too big. They assumed that they could fit all material logistics within one system for the entire Defense Department, Navy as well as Air Force, as Army, and it was simply too big. They should have started small and adding functionality instead of a big bang rollout of a completely new logistic system. And I think that's one of the main reasons why projects fail. They are simply too big to plan and too big to manage.
And risks, too many risks. So we had a customer, they were moving to Agile, and they came to us and they said, we want to move to Agile. We think it's the right thing to do for this new program that we're starting. This is a bet the farm program for us. It's a brand new product. We're going to either sink or swim on it, and we're going to change language we write in. We're going to change platform. We're going to roll out Agile, and we're going to hire a new team. And they said, do you think you could help us? And I said, no, it's because you've already failed. I can tell you right now, I put money on it. I'd short this program all day because you're taking too many risks. So many organizations, besides size, is they just try too many things at once, and you can't do that and be successful. Absolutely.
Jeff, why don't you just hold on to that? Next question's
Wow.
for you.
Okay.
Many people here are in attendance from Cincinnati Insurance, which is a heavily
Really? Are they? Is there anybody here from? Please.
A couple. And it's a very heavily regulated industry. How do you see DevOps playing out in regulated industries?
So we have done DevOps implementations at quite a few places with highly regulated environments. It can definitely be done. So can Agile in those environments. But you do need to tailor, right? We talked about the fact it's not a cookie cutter methodology. There's things you're going to have to do differently in a regulated environment, right? First of all, if you're going to deploy fast and deliver frequently, you're going to have to figure out how to integrate the compliance process and the regulatory process into your day-to-day activities. And that means not just the practices, the processes, the documentation. It means the people, the internal auditors and others are going to have to learn how to be involved. So guess what? They're going to have to be part of the team too. And that's something they're not going to be used to. Just like security's not used to that, and ops may not be used to that, and some other pieces in your org might not be used to it. You have to move in that direction to make it work. The other thing you need to do is figure out how you can automate as much as possible the documentation that you need to produce for the auditors. And so you want to use lightweight tools like requirements analysis tools and traceability and things like that. But ideally, out of those tools, you have a capability to generate in the format they need it, the information being used by the auditors. If you can automate that process, then you can maintain in an Agile system, in a DevOps world, the right kinds of things and produce what's needed to get past your regulatory issues and get it out into production. We've had success with that.
Skip that one.
Down here?
That's for me? Yeah, and additionally to that, I think it's nothing new, DevOps. We've been there years before, then we stopped it, give it a new name, and now we are coming back to that. So it's only using the existing and known standards in a new way to make more development responsibility until it grabs to production.
If you want to go ahead and hold that. This next question is for Dennis, who unfortunately had to leave to catch his flight. But then I'll pose this to the whole group. We've had sessions on AI. How do you see AI impacting software development and testing landscape? Anybody?
Touching that one.
Anybody?
Okay, so
Bueller.
I think what Dennis said. It will take a while. Yes, it will take a while to go there completely. If it's 2050, I don't know. If it's 2049, perhaps. For me, I don't know if it matters me then. So the goal that nobody will write some software in the future. Still a hard way to go. In the short term view, I think we have to clarify before some steps. The regulatory has to be cleaned up, and all the processes have to be described very, very well and carefully. And so it will come, and there will be some new markets going on, some new companies jumping on it and try to generate business. So it will come. It's good to come, but when? Fully, I don't know.
Well, I think it'll make our profession a lot more complex. When you take, for example, the self-driving cars and self-learning systems, you have to stay ahead as a tester. You have to be able to calculate what a system, which is thinking for itself, will do. And the more complex, the more intelligent they get, the more intelligent we must be to be ahead of them. And I think that'll be a challenge for the future. And I hope it's 2040, because that's no longer my problem.
Yeah, me too. So I heard a futurist talk at a conference a couple years ago. It was fascinating. It actually absolutely made no sense to me, anything that he said. Right? We've been talking about robots taking over the world for 50, 60, 70, 80 years. We all know computing power is getting faster, and that means more computation, and that means we can do things more intelligent, smart ways. But I agree, it's going to take a long time before, particularly, we're expecting computers to write code for themselves, in my opinion, because you've jumped then, and it was mentioned in the keynote this morning, from doing things rotely or analyzing and processing a lot of data to actually learning on the fly and realizing when you're learning and pursuing those things. And who knows when that's actually going to happen. I'm not betting that any of our jobs are in jeopardy based on any of that in our lifetime. So don't worry about it. I spend no time thinking about it. Just focus on getting the job done.
One thing I was thinking about, which might be of interest, would be when you think of the DevOps tool chain and the bringing more disciplines further left, like you're bringing in design, you're bringing in regulatory and compliance. What about philosophy and ethical ethicists, people who are involved in understanding about making ethical choices? You may have to have people whose job it is to assess the ethicality of requirements and of designs before they go into is early in the DevOps process. Because if you look at some of the social media platforms and what they're doing, it's not we can do this. It's we have all this data, we have this functionality and this power, but should we do this? And and if we do it, what are the limits of what we should do? How do we define those limits? When should we mine data? When should we not? So having a chief ethical officer or a head of dev ethic ops.
Is that a robot?
Could be. Some way like that.
Well, I fully agree with you, but I hope that your opinion is a common opinion. But I doubt it, to be honest.
Who's next?
The next one, we'll start with Peter. And this is, what is the most bizarre use of SpiraTest that you've seen?
Okay, one of the things I've seen recently with my clients is somebody wanted SpiraPlan to be an asset management system. Now, it is possible, believe it or not, to actually use it as an asset management system. It takes a bit of configuration. It looks really ugly when you've done it, but you can actually do that. And we demonstrated to the client, and they agreed it looked really ugly. So we ended up doing something else. But yeah, there's that one. Also, I'm using SpiraPlan at the moment to plan an election campaign. Now, that's not really what it's designed to do. Yeah. Well, that's a good idea. It's not really what it's designed to do, but as a project management and scheduling tool, you can just ignore all the technical stuff and use it just for project management and scheduling. So they're the two bizarre things that I've come across. I think Remco probably has something more bizarre.
First, Andreas.
Go to Andreas.
Okay, first to me. The client first. So I've never seen such things, but we had several discussions while trying to introduce Spira team. So some people in the company thought, why don't we use Spira only as an incident management tool? Just managing those. And the other ones, that was really bizarre. They wanted to open for every single test case a single project. Yeah. That's really smart, yes. I think for you guys, a lot of work to do, a lot of time to be in the company, so we stopped them there and...
Yes, yes. I'm building a catamaran, and Spira is my backlog. That's a nice project.
Nice.
I mean, we use it to obviously to build Spira with Spira, which is kind of bizarre because we have to always test. We're testing in the version of the software with the version before, and sometimes we forget which version we're using because it looks the same many times. So we're like, are we testing? Is that the one we're testing? Or the one we're putting the results of the test into? Now I know Cincinnati Insurance got around this problem because they actually color code the versions. They change the CSS file so they have different colors for each version, so they know which is the right one and which is the other one. The most bizarre one was when someone called us and they think they'd been searching on Google and they wanted a tool to plan their household, like home remodeling project. They didn't realize it was really the tool. I think they just found it online. And we started going through it all and we're like, no, this is not really, I mean, it'll work, but it's going to be a bit overkill.
Did anybody else have any questions? Yeah, go ahead, Jeff. Wait, hold on one second.
I got you.
I just wondered if you had any plan at any point to think about going public, and if I could get some stock.
Each of us? Okay. My neighbor across the road says if we go public, he has to have the first shares. So I don't know. I have no idea.
We'll keep
Yeah.
it
So
posted.
so Adam, I think since everyone in here is a friend and a family, that we should take all our names down and make sure we're a part of the friends and family when you do go public.
Agree.
I think that's fair, don't you think?
Sure. Don't tell my wife.
Manesh.
It's on video.
I'm looking for the stock. Yeah. Anyway, so my question is first of all, congratulate to you, your first InflectraCon. It was really, really good. Me and Jeff, we came all the way from San Diego. So the question is I think this is also probably a feedback perhaps. So what we have been using Spira from last 1 year. We moved from Quality Center to Spira, and it's been an overwhelming experience for us and also for our users, large user community within our organization, right? So as part of the feedback, when we came, we attended a lot of sessions here. We have learned so many things, right? So what I was talking to Jeff, hey, you know what? Even though we are using Spira team in many ways, right? And if I compare with some of your existing customer, you might know that, right? The way we have given a lot of requirement to you, you have enhanced the tool, right? But I would say we are only using probably 50% of the functionality, right? And now we have learned so much, right? So we will go back, we will relay as much as possible to our other users, right? But from your side, is there anything which you are looking to your customers and circling back with them once in a year and probably educating them or bringing them into the platform, giving them more probably 1 hour or half day workshop kind of thing, right? So that will probably bring more interest, right? Because if I and Jeff will give versus what you will deliver to them, it will be different experience to them, right? So probably I would recommend this to you, at least in my organization, because we are looking for certain tools, right? Where we are looking for some service now and all that, because your tool already provides multiple things, right? So why not come and give some presentation workshop, which will probably give you all end to end, right? This is my feedback.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, we'll have to think about how we can do that. I mean, one of the reasons why we're here in Cincinnati is because we were able to get a large group of people to come together in a relatively short time because we planned this about 4 months ago. So the reason we chose this area was because we could get a good group of people in 4 months, and then we could add people from other teams. You could send 5 or 6 people. We have it now for the next InflectraCon. We're going to have a year to plan it. So the good thing is we can hopefully get a much larger range of clients. As to where we hold it and how we do it, that's also dependent on if we can get some other clients to help us out with providing people. Because what we want to really do is have a good group of people that will come and make it a valuable experience. So if you can get people to commit from your organization, we definitely can commit to making these kind of events more frequent or more inclusive and different locations and better, for sure. And maybe even having workshops, not just short sessions. If some of the stuff we did is more attributable to better suited to a format like a 3-hour workshop on custom reporting or data synchronization, where you're actually bringing your laptop and doing a hands-on session versus watching a slide for 40 minutes. And that's some of the things we could also do if people are prepared to bring a laptop and spend 3 hours in a session. I mean, that's just a trade-off. Right. Right. We have done, so we do webinars on the topic. I will say we have much better engagement. I mean, the engagement we've got from this 2 days is light years ahead of what we get on the webinars. I mean, we do webinars on integration with Jira and integration and reporting, and they're good, but you get maybe 15 people and 20 people, and maybe they're checking email. And the richness of the conversations and the interactions we've had here has been far outside anything we've done online. So we can definitely live stream stuff, but I don't think it replaces this. I don't know. Anyone disagree?
Sounds good.
Yeah. What's that?
Sounds good.
Good.
I think I don't need this microphone.
Oh.
I think your feedback is really valuable, and I'm happy to hear that people have had a good time and have learned a lot. I've seen in sessions that questions have spurred conversation amongst participants, where participants are working together. I think that's another great way that interactions have happened and people have learned from one another. And we're looking for lots of different ways to engage people with training. And so we're happy to hear of these suggestions that you have. Thank you. I think we have time for one more quick question if anyone has one. Otherwise, I'd like to thank our speakers for coming. They were just phenomenal. It was wonderful to have you. And thank you all for joining us at our inaugural event, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessica, for organizing.